Hi everybody, welcome to the Navigate Credit Union Broadcast Center for GoLocal Live. I'm your host, Rachel Nunes. Our first guest of the hour is Rita Marin. She's here from Academy Players of Rhode Island. Welcome and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for inviting me. This is exciting.
So if you could start by just telling us a little bit about what are the Academy Players?
Academy Players are 63 years old this October, and they originated in the beautiful town of East Greenwich. And about 10 years ago, we moved them from East Greenwich with the same history, the same policy, the same procedures, and moved it to Providence. We're found near Buttonhole Golf Course on Buttonhole Drive, and we've been there for almost 10 years now.
Fantastic. And so you're a local community-based organization.
We are. We do family-friendly theater, ages 5 to 105, we like to say. And we try to do shows for every age group and basically family-oriented.
And so you have Newsies coming up. It's opening in about a week?
We do. We are in the process right now of having what we call a gala and a grand opening. We have been in the same spot for 10 years. 5 of those years were performance-based. We closed this past winter and remodeled and expanded. So we've expanded our seating, we've expanded our dressing rooms, we've expanded backstage. So September 13th is the Rhode Island premiere of Newsies, but it is also our gala grand opening of the new facility and Cultural Arts Center. We also have a Cultural Arts Center which houses lessons, music lessons, voice lessons, dance lessons, acting lessons, any kind of art lessons.
Fantastic. So it's really going to be a community center for the arts.
It really is. It really is. It is building on lessons that proceed onto the stage. So we're really running a full cultural arts center.
So talk to us a little bit about Newsies. What made you choose that for the opening show?
Newsies is a community-filled and driven production, and I love community. It is in our name, Academy Players Community Theater. I love ensembles and I love shows that encompass community, and Newsies is one. The boys rally, they tried to create a union, and the community gets involved. Some of the community is not in agreement, but it's a beautiful story about, and I think it's relevant today, even though it took place in 1899 to 1900. I think you could take that story and place it right into 2018.
Oh, you definitely could. It really is this kind of David and Goliath story of all these young people coming together, and that really is just one of those themes that really rings true for all of us, especially for young people, getting together with your friends and righting wrongs and making sure justice is
exactly
found.
That's exactly it, the righting wrongs and to be heard. These young people, the cast is made up, the Newsies are made up from ages 19, a little bit younger, to 28, and it's a perfect age to be heard. So they're still fighting to be heard, whether politically, whether activist, whether behind something, they're still yelling to be heard. So it's a perfect story right now. And I love new work. I love when new work comes out. I love the challenge, and it's exciting to trip off of an international tour and a national tour and then be the next group to do it. So it's a premiere too, so we're pretty excited.
Absolutely. And Newsies itself, it's a very dance-heavy show.
It is. And
so it requires a lot of very, very strong talent. And where do you source these actors from?
Well, there's kind of 3 different categories that we put. Now I'm going to give away all my secrets. 3 different categories that we basically put people in, and it's great singers, great dancers, great actors. Sometimes you're not going to find them all with the same heavy strength. They can do it, but you're not going to find them all at the same 3, as we call it, triple threats. So we actually started this show with a dance intensive starting May 1st, and all of the Newsies had to take that dance intensive, and they have been dancing non-stop since then.
Wow.
And our choreographer, Julia Gillis, who is phenomenal, along with her assistant, Brianna Geyer, have made dancers out of some of these young men and women. So it's an incredible story within itself. It really is.
It sounds like it. And you are a community-based organization. Can anyone audition? Are they open?
Absolutely. We always have open auditions. They're open auditions, and unfortunately, we have people that come back for the last 10 years over and over and over again, and they say, why do we have to audition? Because it's open audition for everybody. The audition is not itself is not open. We do a closed audition because we feel as though the actor is more comfortable with only 4 or 5 people at a table as opposed to an audience of maybe 100 auditioning. So we get the real person and the comfortable person, per se, when they audition.
Especially for someone who's not a professional actor, it must be pretty nerve-wracking to be auditioning in front of 50, 60 people sitting and watching you.
It is. And for this show, we auditioned over 3 days, 6 hours a day. 192 people auditioned, which is unheard of. They came from Boston, Connecticut, New York, and of course Rhode Island.
Wow. So you really do have regional pull. This isn't just small community theater who's in the area. This is really a
and that was our focus when we took Academy from East Greenwich to Providence, was to expand everything, to expand our audition pool, to be right off the highway so anybody is interstate can get to us. So that was one of our goals, and we feel like we succeeded. So
fantastic.
I hope.
And so speaking about the gala a bit, and as well as the performances, can anyone buy a ticket to the gala?
The gala was a special invite. We have dignitaries, politicians. It is something exciting that's happening in Providence for Providence. So we kind of like closed that day off for the city itself to enjoy it and to be invited to. We have a panel discussion coming. It starts at 5:30. From 5:30 to 6:30 we have a light menu, and then at 6:30 we have a talkback forum of some professionals in Rhode Island and some journalists from Rhode Island to talk about the topic of theater and news and entertainment. So we have a talkback for an hour, and then the show premieres at 8 o'clock. And that is a gift to the community, to the mayors, the councilmen, the governor, all of that. So we had to close it off because it sold out immediately. So
sounds like it's going to be a fascinating evening.
I hope so. I hope so.
And for anyone who maybe didn't receive their invitation, or maybe it got lost in the mail, and they're hoping to attend the show anyway, when can they see it?
They can see it. It opens September 13th. That is the day that sold out. The first weekend, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday and Sunday of that weekend is completely sold out.
Wow.
The second weekend, following the weekend of the 13th, there is still some tickets. The last weekend, it runs all the weekends of September. The last weekend is close to selling out. So narrow in on that middle weekend, and hopefully you can get a ticket.
Now's the time.
Now's the time. That's one of their lyrics in the
That's
show.
true.
Now
it is.
The time. Now is the time.
And so how much are tickets to attend?
$25, and you can go through brown paper tickets under Academy Players Newsies, and that's how you can find the tickets. No tickets at the door. Fire marshal won't let us sell.
Sounds like they won't be available anyway.
No, they're going pretty quick. They have been. They have been. We've increased seating, so we thought we were going to service most of Rhode Island, but we're filling up quickly. So I guess that's a good problem.
Yeah, that's really incredible. And so maybe if we don't get to see Newsies, or maybe it sells out too quickly, what can we look forward to seeing upcoming?
Next coming up is we do a lot of collaboration with Epic Theater Company, run by Kevin Broccoli. His show is coming up in October. We are also a part of, we designed a company cast. What a company cast is we had about 60 to 70 people audition, and from that we created a almost like chorus choir-like group that will now do musicals in a concert format. So they're musicals that maybe people aren't doing more of, brand new ones, or some that have not been heard by the public. So my production team got together and designed this company cast, as it's called, and we'll be opening in October with Addams Family, where they will just act out and sing out in a concert series format. So there's no sets, there's no costumes, there's no props. It's just these unbelievable professional singers singing with the binder in front of them, because we knew that there was a group of people out there that didn't necessarily want to do theater, but they want to sing. So there's this whole other world out there that we have now grabbed onto, and we're excited about that. So that happens in October, and then we have Once on This Island for the younger group, the teens and the children. That's a beautiful story that happens in November, and all of this is on our website, and we have a full season of shows.
Fantastic. And you were speaking about Once on This Island being geared towards a younger group. What kind of youth programs do you do? Well,
first we offer lots of classes in all of the arts discipline for the younger group. We now have a class that starts on Saturday with Dante Sciarra, who will be teaching the youth musical.
Oh, he's fantastic.
You know
Dante? Fantastic. He was one of my professors at the University of Rhode Island. I took his dance class. He's wonderful.
He's my other husband. We've been friends since I was 11 years old. So he's very much a house person for us, a house choreographer and dance teacher resident. So we have that, but we also offer junior style shows for the young, and that's 18 and under. So piano, like I said, piano classes, voice lessons, you name it, to kind of grow them.
And so that's a great opportunity both for kids to get involved, but also to learn maybe if they're interested, or they've done maybe a play at school and they want to push it a little farther.
Yes, yes, it is a great, we call it Academy is Home, and there's all ages that flock to it, thank goodness. So we're very fortunate. We're very fortunate.
And how can someone get involved? Maybe they don't have the time to audition, or maybe they just don't have the acting ability. Is there a way to get involved with the Academy Players community?
Absolutely. We are always looking for volunteers, and on our website you can find our email and just drop us a note saying we would like to get involved. Behind the scenes, we're always looking for technical people, lights, camera, action. We're always looking for that. We're always looking for people backstage. And we're always looking for board members as well. So there's plenty of opportunity.
Fantastic. Well, Newsies is getting ready to open up. I'm sure you guys are deep into your last second preparations and tech rehearsals.
We certainly are.
Well, thanks so much for taking the time to join us. Newsies opens September 13th.
September 13th.
And if you want to go get your tickets now, they're selling out quickly. You can check out the brand new Academy Players Theater, and it's their new area that's fantastic. You won't want to miss it. Thank you so much, Rita Merritt, for joining us.
Thank you
taking time out of your very busy schedule to be with us.
Thank you.
We really appreciate it. We'll be right back with our next guest here on GoLocal Live. Welcome back to GoLocal Live here in the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. We're here now with Rosanna Ortiz. She's here from Style Week Northeast. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And so it may not seem like it based on the weather today, but September is upon us. Style Week Northeast it's coming up soon.
It is. Good thing we're showing spring 2019 collections, so it's a little bit more fitting for the weather.
Yeah, people might end up just wearing it day of.
Absolutely.
It'll be the right weather for it.
Absolutely.
So tell us a little bit about this year's lineup.
So we're going into our 9th year, 15th season, and we are showcasing 11 emerging designers from all over the region. We're also opening up Style Week with our Seed Student Design Challenge, where we are showcasing 4 baby designers ages 8 to 10 on the runway. So we paired them with the Style Week veteran, and they're creating a 3-piece collection to be judged in front of a panel of judges.
That's really cool. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. It was actually a really great story. So one of our little student designers reached out to me via Instagram, email. She was really persistent in trying to get our attention. And I met with her. She's 9 years old. Her name is Ella Sinell, and she said she wanted to be a designer. So we went ahead and we partnered with her with one of our Style Week designers, and they're creating 3-piece collections. Each of the collections will be inspired by the imagination of the student designer. So we're really excited about that show having, being opening night on Wednesday, September 19th.
That's fantastic, and what a way to make a debut into the fashion world at just 9 years old.
Just throw them into the runway with an adult. And they're making collections for adult women, so it's not children's wear.
That's really interesting.
Gives them an extra challenge.
Absolutely. And so what other things can we look forward to at this year's event?
So each Style Week we go ahead and we have an accessory showcase which precedes the fashion shows. And this year we have an accessory showcase presented by Uniquely Chic Vintage. It's going to be a wonderful build out and fit out. Our theme for the accessory showcase this year is the Pantone colors of spring 2019. We're also going to have about 14 vendors in the accessory showcase. So when you check into Style Week, you can go ahead and mingle with the attendees there, get some cocktails, some small treats, and shop the vendors and look at the services in the pre-area. Then we go ahead and we begin the fashion shows at around 7 p.m. So we have 4 shows per night. The first 2 shows are back-to-back, and then we have a break in the middle, and then the last 2 shows are back-to-back as well. Like I said, we have 11 designers, some of them from New York, Boston, Rhode Island. We have a lot of newbies this season, so I'm excited to debut them here in Rhode Island.
That's great. And what's the process like of choosing who you're going to feature? I'm sure you get hundreds and thousands of people stepping forward to say like, oh, I'd love for you to feature our collection. How do you choose who you're showing?
It is very hard to choose. Since we went from 7 days to 4 days, it is more of a challenge. So we choose based on, for me, it's heart and if they're a real working designer. We ensure that the designers who are showcasing at Style Week are designers who are producing materials for sale. We also ensure that they have, I like to say, the charisma and the passion for what they do. Many of these designers do work other jobs, but ultimately they all want to be working designers in the future. So, and it really depends. We definitely like to go ahead and pick different, collections based on like whether it's streetwear from Amy Page de Blasio or if it's more minimalistic wear from Rose and Thread. So it really depends on the designer, really.
Fantastic. And what are some of the trends where you see that fashion seems to be leaning towards for the upcoming spring season?
So spring season, we have a lot of magenta happening and a lot of color. And I think that people are becoming a little bit more comfortable with mixing and matching colors, not matching all the time, especially for fall. Lots of animal print is in, red boots, white boots. So I think people are in an experimental mode. And what we see from the major metropolitan fashion weeks overseas, they are pushing a lot more mixed medias, mixing your patterns, so a lot more fun.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
Yes.
And so tell us a little bit about the event itself. When and how can we purchase tickets?
So it's September 19th through the 22nd. We're returning to the convention center. I think we found our home there. You can get tickets at Ticketmaster.com or you can go to StyleWeekNortheast.com. We also are offering student discounts through our website. So tickets are available. They're for sale now. You can pick your front row seat or your second row seat. There really isn't a bad seat in this new venue. And it's a huge runway, 130 feet long, so it's a production.
Sounds like it. And how much are tickets?
Tickets are for front row $125 and for second row $75. And on closing night, we usually have a little bit of an overflow, so we probably will be offering standing room.
Great. And so when you purchase a ticket, is it for all the shows of the evening as well as the vendor showcase before that?
Yes, that's a great question. So when you do purchase a ticket, that is for the entire night. So we do tell people, if you're really excited about one designer, you should purchase a ticket and keep your seat through the whole show. Because I mean, you're seeing 3 designers, as well. So it's best to stay the whole show.
Of course, and you never know what you might see. Maybe you'll see your new favorite designer right after.
Exactly. It's a lot of fun. We market it as an experience. It's a great date night. It's a great girls' night out. Our partners enjoy it. So we're excited to come back for the ninth year. Gosh, I'm dating myself.
And so, who are some of the really featured designers that you're really showcasing at this year's event?
So opening night on Thursday, which is after Seed, I am showcasing a RISD student, and we normally don't show students at Style Week Northeast. Zoe Grinfeld is still a junior at RISD.
Wow.
She participated in our Seed event a year ago. She was so spectacular. Her collection was just breathtaking. We decided to go ahead and give her her formal runway show this season.
That's incredible.
Our closing show is Kent Stetson. Now, I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, but he's a handbag designer.
He was just here on the show last week with
Yes.
our other lifestyle host, Chelsea Gay.
Yes, he's wonderful.
He is.
So we are creating a runway show for his bags, but it's going to be all artificial intelligence that'll be showing it. So we're going to have drones in the show that are carrying his handbags. We have robotics that are going to be operated by children designers. And then we also have a bunch of other fun artificial intelligence items that are going to be part of his runway show for closing night.
That's so interesting. What made you go in that direction?
So I have a fear of artificial intelligence, and I like to do things that scare me. And it's coming our way. We can't stop it. So Kent and I collaborated, and we thought, let's do a show where it's all drones. And then that just kind of opened the can of worms of us going and researching different robotics in the area, seeing if we could get some really, really interesting technology on the runway, not just about models.
And that's a really interesting way also of combining the latest in technology with the latest in fashion as well. So it's really what's cutting edge in several different industries.
Absolutely. I mean, it's funny because Style Week, isn't just about fashion. It's about, encompassing design. It's encompassing style. And, whether we like it or not, it's part of our day-to-day life.
Absolutely.
But the drones are very cool.
It sounds like it's going to be a very interesting, very, very cutting edge type show.
It is. I'm really excited about that. And then we have Boston designers coming down again. We have Simone Simon. She's based out of Boston and Paris. We have Lala B. She's based in Boston, a working designer. And then we have newcomer Lavanya Kudley, and she is actually, she's been designing for celebrities forever. And she's based in Mass. I had no idea. So we have a lot of talent in this region that is right underneath our noses, and they should be shown.
Absolutely. It's so fantastic to be able to show off all this local talent in our area and say this is what Rhode Island and Massachusetts and everyone in New England can do.
Exactly. And it's really nice to have New York designers and Connecticut designers show, because ultimately I really want Style Week Northeast to be more of a destination rather than just showing people from our own backyard. It's nice to kind of give that touristic oomph to the state. So it's always been one of our missions at Style Week.
Great. And I'll ask you now one of my favorite questions for people coming in with events. What would you say to someone who is maybe on the edge of, oh, I don't know if I should go, I don't know if it's for me? What would you say to someone to convince them that Style Week Northeast is for you?
Style Week Northeast, I call it a fashion show, a fashion week for everyone, because you can come as you are. You don't have to worry about what you're wearing. Everybody has their own style ideas, and I would say to them they are going to be incredibly surprised when they do come.
It sounds like it's going to be a fascinating few days, and it's coming up really soon, just a couple weeks away.
Yes, I feel it.
So get your tickets now. You can check it out. It's coming to the Rhode Island Convention Center, not too far from right here in downtown Providence.
Walking distance, so very close.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Of course. Thanks for having me again.
And we'll be right back with our last guest of the hour right here on GoLocal Live. Great. Thanks so much for Welcome back to Go Local Live here in the Navigate Credit Union Broadcast Center. We're here with our last guest of the hour, Senator Paul Jabour for Senate District 5. Very hotly contested seat this year. Primaries coming up quick. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much. A pleasure to be here with you.
So, of course, we'll start with a very sad day in Providence yesterday. Unfortunately, the shooting and killing of a student here on local streets. What do you think needs to change to help prevent these kind of tragedies?
Well, one of the things that's very touching is that this young boy, his family lives in my district. They live on Florence Street in Providence. I had the opportunity to go there this morning and spend time with the parents and the family. I was very encouraged by not only the mayor and law enforcement being present, but also members of the Providence School Department were there, and there were some counselors and some individuals from the administration. So clearly the community is rallying around this family at a very difficult time.
It is always wonderful to see how people come together in times of such tragedy.
Absolutely. And you know, I was born not far from that location. I was born in the Federal Hill neighborhood. Grew up in the West Broadway neighborhood as a young boy, played in the streets of Manton and Joslin and Oneyville. So I understand and I know how that family is feeling today. And what do we have to do as not just for law enforcement, but as a governing body here? I think the General Assembly has taken some significant steps. Last year, Governor Raimondo, with her initiative in both the House and the Senate, we passed two important key pieces of legislation that deal with school safety. The one thing I think we have to take it a step further, one of the things that I'd like us to look at is possibly a statewide 911 lockdown system at all of the city and the states and the way the schools are comprised here in Rhode Island. We're a small enough state that we can manage that. Of course, this was an incident where it could happen anywhere. You could have law enforcement and you can have school protection and you could still have an incident that occurred. My understanding that this individual was not the target either of the shooting. So, but I think what we need to protect our students on a daily basis coming and going to the school as well as their entrance into the school. So I think we have to look a little closer at improved methods to screening students so that we can prevent weapons either being around the school or even in the school.
And could you speak a little bit more to this 911 lockdown initiative? What would that entail?
Well, I think there's a comparable system that was adopted in the Broward County area down in Florida. And what we would have would be a direct call would be made to a central system, something similar to 911, based on the location of the threat and where the actual potential violence would be occurring or where something did occur. There would be an automatic electronic lockdown. Now, of course, the schools would have to be modified and they would have to install the appropriate electronic systems for both windows, doors, and various entrances and exits to the school. I've spoken to some people who are involved in the Florida project, and they believe that in the state of Rhode Island, having just 39 cities and towns and obviously individual school districts, that it would not be an expense that would be something that we would weigh in favor of the cost versus the benefits. I think the benefits of public safety always outweigh the costs.
So in this circumstance, it would be an immediate lockdown of the school in the area, as opposed to hearing about the threat, alerting the school, and then the burden being on the school to lock down.
Exactly. It would be a statewide, but it would be a specific area that would receive the call, and that would be implemented immediately. In fact, it would be sort of almost like a blind letter that is sent that people really don't know exactly what's going on, other than that there is a problem and that the safety measures have already been implemented. So I think that's something for us to consider given the size of our state, and obviously our children deserve safe environment. We've addressed that now, hopefully, with the referendum now for the expending of some $250 million to renovate our schools. It also puts greater responsibility on the local cities and towns to continue to maintain and upgrade their schools in the future. So while we make that commitment on a statewide basis, we're also asking the city and towns to maintain their responsibility, very much similar to how we dealt with the pension system years ago. When they made adjustments to the pension system, there was also a requirement that the local cities and towns fund their local pensions adequately on an annual basis through their budget.
And so in the last year, Rhode Island has passed some what many groups are calling common sense gun laws, including the ban of bump stocks, taking away guns from red flag users.
We discussed that. I think I discussed that earlier. We also addressed the issue of domestic abusers and the taking of those guns and putting some adequate protection in for both sides, a due process, an adequate hearing notice, and then an actual full hearing as to whether or not an individual should even have the opportunity to have that gun returned to he or she.
So in this issue, this specific incident, was this a gun issue? Do you think we need stronger gun laws, or is this a different issue? Of course, now many activist groups are saying this is another issue. We need to get guns off the streets. Do we need stronger gun laws here in Rhode Island?
Well, anytime there are guns on the street that do not belong, that end up in the hands of people that are irresponsible, there will always be a call for stricter laws. And I would say we could have a strict law on the books, and a young individual such as what happened here, he or she will get their hands on a gun no matter what. Violence is determined to proceed, and when an individual wants to get his or her hand on a gun, they will do that. Education of the young people in the state of Rhode Island and understanding why we should not get involved in violence and crime, and spending time in our community centers and in our churches and in our homes and where people talk about social issues. That's where I think we're going to really nip at the bud the issue of violence. We can legislate a lot of things. I've learned over the years that legislation should not be just reactionary. There should be some real purpose for it, and it should have some real underlying effect. And in the case of guns, I think we have some really good laws here in Rhode Island that serve as a deterrent to an individual wanting to violate the gun laws.
Definitely a really sad day for Providence.
Absolutely.
And hopefully measures will be taken to prevent this in the future.
Like I said, I think the measures that you can look at would be improve security around the schools. That's certainly one area that I think we have to look at. Mm-hmm. I think we have to look at within the school what type of supervision is being conducted. In the case of where maybe they need more individuals in terms of maybe a teaching assistant or another counselor or a supervisor that could be in the building and just patrolling. Unfortunately, we have to use that term, being in the corridors and in the common areas of the school, making sure that people who do not belong in the school, whether it's outside the school or in the school, are not present to create any imminent danger for the students.
And so turning gears a little bit to talk about the primary coming up very soon, just a week from now. We've spoken as well in the past with your primary opponents, and both have said that you've supported measures that have cut taxes for the rich, and that it's to the detriment of Providence. What do you say in response to that?
I don't know where they would get the allegations that I've supported tax cuts to the rich. In fact, let me first begin by saying that both of my opponents have run very negative campaigns in which they have presented lies about my legislative record. They are complete lies. I have never supported any legislation that would give tax cuts to the rich. Mr. Bell issued a negative mailing. In fact, he's done 3 negative mailings against me, which are completely false. One of the mailings makes reference to a number of bills that I either would have been a sponsor or a co-sponsor. Those were not bills that provide any relief to rich individuals or individuals with high income. They were bills that were passed over a period of time to increase the estate tax in the state of Rhode Island. And that's a death tax. And the exemption was so low when anyone who would look at the estate tax consequences, somebody who was a hard-working individual, a working-class individual, would be subject to a significant tax upon their death. So that would result in either a surviving spouse or a significant other having to pay a substantial amount of tax. Now, these are working Rhode Islanders, not rich individuals. And let me say, as a practicing attorney, I also have my master's in tax law. So I think I understand the tax code, and I understand the estate tax law. And those bills, by any stretch of the imagination, including an evaluation done by RIPEC, are bills that are common sense for hard-working Rhode Island families. So there's a perfect example of both of my opponents not understanding the law, not knowing the purpose of what the purpose of the legislation is, and what the effect would be, the fiscal note on a bill, something that neither Mr. Bell or Mr. Ordiello know. Now, let me say this. Both of them have engaged in negative, including Mr. Ordiello, who filed a false complaint against me, alleging that I had violated campaign finance laws. That turned out to be completely false. The complaint was dismissed. It was really a complaint that had no merit at all. Mr. Ordiello, as the candidate, had a consultant sign the complaint against me. As a candidate, I think if you are going to run for public office and you want to file a complaint against another candidate, then you should sign the complaint, because that's your responsibility and you're making the allegation. Now, let me explain how that law works. That law says that if you file a frivolous complaint and it has no documentation to support it, you can be prosecuted by the Attorney General in the state of Rhode Island. So I'm curious to see what's going to happen now that the fact that his complaint was dismissed and it was found to be frivolous. As far as Mr. Bell is concerned, both he and Mr. Ordiello fit into the same package. They have raised over $200,000 of out-of-state money, PAC money. All of their funding for this campaign, which again, all negative ads, lies that have been mailed out. Each of them have probably had 3 or 4 mailings to the voters in the district. They all misrepresent my record. They have false allegations. I think what the voters need to look at in this race is who's really qualified, who's a lifelong resident, who has resided in the district, who has the ability to continue to get quality legislation that affects the district in a very profound and positive way. Mr. Bell and Mr. Ordiello are essentially carpetbaggers in the district. They just moved in like 4 or 5 months before the filing deadline. So they have a lot of out-of-state money, and I think what voters have to think about is how are they going to best protect the interests of those voters and residents in our district when they've already been bought and sold by outside political money? I don't accept any political contributions. And I made that pledge when I first ran. I will not accept political contributions in the future. I have always taken the position that people come before politics. It's the taxpayers and the homeowners of my district that I'm out to serve, as well as all the other voters, and I am free to listen to them. And when I am either emailed, discuss with them at community and neighborhood meetings what the issues are that affect the neighborhood or the district, I am free to vote as my constituency will ask me to vote, because I don't take any special interest money. Neither Mr. Bell or Mr. Ordiello can say that. Let me also make it very clear that we restored over $22 million in this year's state budget for both Medicaid, and we also did that for developmentally and disabled individuals. Both of my opponents have lied to the public and said that I did not support the state budget and that I supported the cut in those programs. That is completely false. The initial budget had $22 million less. It was the Rhode Island Senate and the House that restored the $22 million and fully funded both of those programs. So this is another example of Mr. Bell and Mr. Audiello not understanding the legislative process, looking at what would be the first imprint of the budget, but not looking at the final version of the budget and what amendments were made to restore cuts. So they really both have a long way to go before they can convince the voters in the district that they are capable and have the qualifications and the understanding. And if you're not from the district and you don't live there and you don't know the people, then how are you going to represent them? You're going to win a seat based on PAC money? I don't think the voters are that stupid. And I think we have very intelligent voters in Senate District 5, and I think the results on September 12th will show that.
We will see. It's coming up soon, just a few days away. Sure to be a hotly contested debate here in Providence. Perhaps not quite as hot as it is outside today. Definitely a hot one.
I enjoyed the heat. I've been through the district, knocking door to door, and for those who are watching, they've seen me. One of my trademark is to maintain my suit, keep that on with the tie, and knock on the door and present myself as a respectful candidate to the electorate. And I enjoy doing that. This is a place where I grew up, I live, it's my home, I am not going anywhere. And the voters know that, and they know that they get a dependable and a balanced candidate when they vote for Paul Jabor for re-election for Senate.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. We really do appreciate it. Lots of very important topics on the docket for today. We do appreciate you being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for GoLocal for providing the opportunity to speak to my constituents.
Of course. And be sure to stay tuned. Chelsea's up in just a few minutes at 4 o'clock. That does it for us here in the 3 o'clock hour here in the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center, but be sure to tune in at 4. For now, I'm your GoLocal Live host, Rachel Nunes.